Afternoon, everyone. My name is Sheree Seals, and today I'm going to present a case research on social entrepreneurs, one that is local and one that is international. A social entrepreneur seeks initiatives that have the potential to solve problems for a group of individuals, a community, or a society as a whole. And these individuals strive to make a positive difference in society through their ideas or business venture. As the research focus on Mr. Mark Kosher, an international entrepreneur, and Alpha Sinanan, a local entrepreneur, both will be explained in this case analysis. By discovering crucial variables that enhance social welfare or by launching initiatives that improve living conditions in specific regions, social entrepreneurs bring a fresh viewpoint to social trends. They investigate industries that traditional capitalism has yet to explore or changing the way people live, think, consume, and interact on a national or global basis. They tend to enhance people's lives by advocating for vital projects that do not have a commercial incentive, or even if they do, those incentives or monetary benefits are developed later on. These entrepreneurs were chosen for this research for the reasons that they act as a catalyst for social change, they generate social value, they influence some form of government policy, they also reshape corporate social responsibility, and they save lives. The data acquired came from both primary and secondary sources, with the primary data obtained through interviews with the local entrepreneur and secondary data gained by examining online articles, journal, case studies, and textbooks. Mr. Alpha Senon would have founded Y-Farm, which is an NGO founded to promote food and nutrition security to youth. Its mission is to promote agriculture among children by raising their knowledge of the global food crisis and as a result to nurture future feeders by 2050. The trigger for this initiative is that the relative contribution of the agricultural sector to the GDP shows a declining trend over time. It is common knowledge, according to CSO's report in Trinidad, there has been approximately 18,142 farmers who are mostly males, which is at 80%, 85%, and an average age is 52 years. Therefore, their life usage as a productive farmer is the maximum age of 55. Therefore, if this category of persons are not replenished, there will be approximately 9 billion persons without any means to feed themselves by the year 2050. Furthermore, Mr. Senon aimed to provide young people between the ages of 5 to 12 at first and then later on as the program progressed from 5 to 35 with the knowledge and skill needed to identify and recognize chances for self-sufficiency which enabled livelihood in the agricultural industry. And there has been a lack of nutritious food and knowledge in this existence for most children. This therefore inspired Mr. Senon in a campaign to transform communities' negative impression of agriculture into a valuable industry through agri-edutainment, which is an agricultural education and entertainment program, in order to address issues relating to food security in their community and other communities around the world. This involved the development of a many comic book characters, Agriman, Agribot, and Photocenter Sister, right? Some on hand and on the ground engagement program with superhero that teaches children that agriculture and encourage them to participate in the process. It also helps to draw their attention that they are made of a comic book and a motion picture animation as well. Mr. Senon was not of the view that agriculture was only for poor people or agriculture had no financial benefits. And it's one of the reasons he developed Y Farm because he's a very passionate agropreneur who since 2015 would have established Y Farm with the intention of targeting youths to be able to look at agriculture as not just a way of life but also a business as well, and together with being able to sustain themselves in the future. He has been visiting many primary schools as well as opening projects where he can educate children through the AgriCool Kids Club, through the AgriMan Adventures, as well as the Agri Entrepreneurship Training Program. He also has some other social programs like Dashin your doorstep, as well as Plant Your Plate starter kits. One of the interesting part of Plant Your Kit starter kit is that they will prepare everything for this particular kit, from the seedlings, the soil, and then they will deliver it to you at a cost, of course. These programs have created a lot of social value where that agriculture is becoming more popular among young children, and also it is being actively pursued by them as a career route as well. There are many ripple effects as well as risk associated with Y Farm. But let's look at the positive side of it. There's an expansion of his target market because when Y Farm first started, it was targeted for youths between the ages of 5 to 12. However, that has since increased to 5 to 35 because it wasn't just the youths he was targeting, but other persons decided that they saw a need for it and an interest in it, so they wanted to learn about it. Not just children, but you had communities, you had organizations in the sense of youth groups within communities, you had churches, you had elderly homes, all of those places that were interested. Now, not only that, this interest for the target market that have increased, you have now a generation of persons that could now take the idea of what Y Farm has now put out there in the market and also expand on it, right? Also, because of this particular endeavor by Mr. Sanon, you have seen individuals looking into career areas as being agronomists, soil scientists, agricultural professors at any university, food processors, and distributors as well. However, the downside of that, there is also some sort of risk, and most of the time, the risk in itself is funding for most of these programs, whether it's one that is startup or whether it's one that is continuing. Further, some of these risks that is associated with the startup program can be controlled by financial institution, government funding initiative, networking with diversified specialists as well. With regards to the organizational capability of Y Farm mostly has a management team, but not a board in its rightfully. You have Mr. Senan, who's the founder and co-director. You also have officers in the area of program manager, ICT office manager, farm project manager, communications and community coordinator. You also have a school tour coordinator person as well. All employees as well as persons that are affiliated with YFARM report to Mr. Sinon, as there is no board of directors at the moment. Right? Its staffing composition is mainly comprised of volunteers between the amount of 2 to 10 persons who are paid from the areas who are paid in according to the areas in which they perform in relevant projects. YFAM's source of funding has been in 4 areas: funding through grants, in which they would have participated or their programs would have gotten them grant funding, donations, more or less through consultancies and projects. They also have earned income through the sale of their value added products, also through the Agriman promotions, which is the comic books. You also have their farm tours, their food packaging. You have also their Callaloo and Veggie Pack, and once again, a main hit would be the animated books. You also have networking ventures in which they would have partnered with Massey Stores from a grown home project. They also would have partnered with Nestle. They also are part of the Food and Agriculture Organization, and also through their local community, they had the Farmers Collective as well. Performance measure and reporting system for YFARM currently, mostly everything is done through the founder and the co-directors, as there's no set really and truly performance matrix other than that they would have established. So the reporting procedure, as there's no board of directors, is that everything goes through Mr. Sanan, who will then determine how things are going to be put together, how they are going to count for certain things. There are financial statements in place for accountability in the sense of funds as well as performance in the areas of when they have received grants or they have collaborated with other entities, right? But so far, their performance measurement are in place. Needs a little more restructuring, um, but they have some reporting systems. YFAM forms part of the EMES School of Entrepreneurship because it is based on economic, sociological, political science, and management disciplines. And this approach includes indicators that emphasizes the unique form of governance in the school. And this is where Wi-Fi has demonstrated them in the sense of its ongoing operations, which is the primary reason for the formation of the organization is the production activity. It also have a high degree of financial risk as viability is dependent on their personnel or members' determination to obtain significant funding. There is restricted employment opportunities with a strong desire to better the community, and as there's a mix of financial and non-financial resources as well as some paid and unpaid labor. It's also an initiative launched by several persons to encourage a localized sense of social responsibility. There is limited profit distribution, a great level of independence, and the amount of accessible capital investment gives decision making. And there's also a participatory manner in which things are done as well. For Mr. Sanon, his entrepreneurial capabilities, four things stand out to me, which was his creativity, the idea that he could create an organization concept and what it stands for, its future development, and all his examples of creativity. There's a level of innovation with the products and programs made to draw in and hold the interest of the intended audience as a value-added product and service. His networking capabilities as to how he associated with other companies that he could promote his enterprise and offer additional chance for development and expansion. There's also risk taking by deciding that the intended demographic would be his target group, even if they were not interested or had no desire in that specific endeavor at the point in time. The decision was still made to bring these programs to them. Mr. Mark Andrew Koskar is the founder of SharePoint Trust, Star Syringe Limited, the designer of the auto disposable syringe, and the founder of StarTech, the leading engineering company, syringe manufacturing consulting firm. In the mid 1980s, the global HIV/AIDS crisis was unfolding, and it was one of the articles that caught his particular attention that predicted that the reuse of syringe would soon be the biggest contributor to HIV infections. And that article was a game changer for him, igniting his interest in global public health and catalyzing his lifelong commitment to eradicating unsafe needles. After reading that article, he revealed the scale of HIV infection through the reuse of syringe in 1984. He learned that each year, doctors and nurses all around the world through improper injections leads to many deaths per year in the 1980s. That's when he decided to dedicate his career to tackling this problem as his contribution to global healthcare. Without prior experience in engineering or public health, he spent many years studying and investigating the intricate issues, and his early effort resulted in the invention of a less expensive and safer syringe. He targeted both private and public healthcare experts with the goal of uniting all healthcare systems around safe injections through successful lobbying and research initiatives. Working with all stakeholders, including doctors, manufacturers, policymakers, he successfully linked economic, political, and social initiatives, resulting in the abolition of one of the most heinous avoidable evils. His mission was also to drive policy change at a ministerial level, ensuring that the disposable syringes were made standard and available in all countries that needed them most. Informing from grassroots people to government levels was paramount to produce an efficient healthcare system. He invented his very first syringe in 1996, which physically prevents reuse by locking the plunger in place after the first use and ensure that these syringes could be produced using existing machinery. Minimal additional training would have been required, and for just 1 cent more per unit, he founded Star Syringe. He revolutionized not only syringe themselves, but the way injections were being administered around the world. He created the Lifesaver campaign, which drove accountability through the system in 2011, when national health ministries were mandated to use the auto disable syringe in many countries. or risk losing donor funding. You also had global manufacturers who were mandated to bring 100% of their syringe production into compliance by 2020 or risk losing assets to their market as government banned imports of reusable syringes, and healthcare workers were mandated to bring 100% of their syringe production into compliance. SurePoint Trust launched in 2008 the One Injection, One Syringe public health campaign to support its goal of making the use of auto-disposable syringes mandatory. And this campaign resulted in the establishment of a global policy on injection safety by the World Health Organization in 2015. He tackled political, economic, and social issues that led to misaligned incentives between both public and private sectors in order to create a market and policy landscape necessary to make the universal access to safe injections a reality. He believed that everyone has a right to safe and secure injection regardless of where they are born, and as a result, he has a role and platform to engage, influence, and ultimately hold all parties involved accountable for their actions. His organization collaborated with public health groups, government, policymakers, healthcare providers, and patients, and they operate on three sides to ensure a single-use syringe was widely distributed and adopted. So they spearheaded technological advancement and innovation, influenced policy and industry factors to impact the political landscape, and involved the public by providing media with research and patient empowerment via openness and knowledge sharing. Star Syringe Limited organizational capabilities in the sense of its board composition. There currently resides only four directors and a secretary. Uh, some of its board members also functions as management as part of its management and employees as well, as they handle the day-to-day organization because they, for example, Mr. Rupert is a director and he has 25 years establishing and growing enterprises in regards to medical, energy, financial, media, and information sectors. And he's still involved in all these fields, so he concentrates on literacy program for both developed and underdeveloped worlds. Mr. Norbert Rudolph, who is also a managing director, right? He oversees the engineering consultancy for licensing, project planning, and implementation of medical device factories, as he has over 30 years' experience in that particular field. You also have Mr. Wallace, who is a chartered accountant, and he has experience in project management, fundraising, and technology transfers. Star Syringe Limited's primary source of finance have been licensing, consulting projects, public contributions, some governmental support, and patents. So far, from what records would have revealed, is that their yearly revenue in 2022 was roughly about 4 million US. The social school demonstrated by Mr. Koska that I have seen would be a social enterprise. Um, Being that because his operation is ongoing, right, he is constantly driven by his social mission, and he reinvest or they reinvest their financial resources back into their social mission. It is owned and more or less controlled by the interests of the social mission, and they are transparent about what they strive to achieve under this particular mission. Uh, Also, because it's a social enterprise, they prevent distribution of assets for any sort of private gain, and they earn at least 50% of their income through trading, in the sense of through their patents, through their licenses, and so forth. Social School of Social Enterprises is an earned income business or strategy undertaken by a non-profit to generate revenue in support of its charitable mission. Mr. Koska, as a part of a non-profit sector entrepreneur, is a change maker, as he and his organization implement new combinations in the following methods, such as new services of a higher quality, new production processes, and new markets. Therefore, the subject of social entrepreneurship could encompass outcomes rather than just incomes. Furthermore, the systematic character of innovation and its wide ranging societal influence is frequently highlighted. Adopting a mission to create and sustain social value, recognizing and pursuing new opportunities to serve that mission, engaging in a process of continuous innovation, adaptation, and learning while also acting boldly without being limited by available resources, and finally exhibiting a heightened sense of accountability to the general public in which it serves and for the income created is his view of playing the role of change agent in this society's center. The entrepreneurial capabilities demonstrated by Mr. Croswell has been creativity and innovation because I think for me, to come up with an idea of a single use syringe, knowing that he has not had any experience or knowledge in that particular field, shows a lot of ingenuity as well as innovation as to what it is he wanted to undertake. With regards to his leadership, he didn't just create something and that was it. He decided that he wanted to push this initiative. He pushed the initiative. It wasn't just about creating a product for him, but also impacting the lives of other persons, right? Within that particular fields, as he said, from the grassroots up until in the governmental offices. He took a great risk in putting that out there, um, because anybody that has never been in that particular field, he had no knowledge and just to embark on this one particular endeavor, right? But he networked a lot because he used his sources from technology to policies to the lobbying part of it from government intervention to get him to a point where he could now say, listen, that I have now made an impact into the world healthcare to bring safer injections as well as to bring a product that everybody could be satisfied with. Having critically looked at both Y-Farm as well as Star Syringe Limited, it has broadened my view in the sense that it gives me the motivation to look for areas or see social areas that motivate me to do something that I can now take the experiences that I have seen from these persons and implement it in my particular society. I know that there's also a positive and negative impact in everything that is done in the sense of when you're starting out to look at social endeavors. It might not always be easy to come by, and there are ups and downs in the sense of challenges as to time and resources, knowledge base, as well as looking forward as to how you'll be able to implement these without any sort of challenges. My opinion about social entrepreneurship after completing this assignment is one that I am open minded to moving forward to taking up some cause where I could be able to help not just my community but help my country as a whole. Advice for anyone who wants to start a social enterprise. If you think that it is something that your heart and mind is geared towards, I say go for it. Because it's only when you try and you realize that your cause could benefit somebody else, then you will see the greater need outside of yourself.